Hey, welcome back after the long weekend. I'm Jer Stays, and this is your Daily Detroit for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. On today's show, we're going to get into what to know around town. Then Fletcher Sharpe gets us up to speed on the latest in sports with MSU basketball, Michigan football, and Lions news. But first, some thanks to our newest members, Nisa and Jonathan. They're helping power our local work at patreon.com/dailydetroit. It's people like them and you that make this show possible. So thanks, and that's patreon.com/dailydetroit. All right, let's get started.
So you probably saw this. The federal government announced they were going to double the number of Pfizer vaccines being sent to states this week. When they showed up, they didn't. This is what everybody's dealing with. So the state of Michigan had a shortfall of about 50,000 vaccines from what they'd said, which means everybody is having a tough time this week. In Detroit, we expect to get 9,000 to 10,000 this week. We got 6,000. We can work with 6,000, but it is not what we had hoped to try to keep expanding eligibility.
That's Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan outlining the impact on the ground of errors by the federal government about how many vaccine doses were coming to states. It means the city's plans, as we outlined in a previous episode, will change based on this new information. And what is that information? In news first reported by the Washington Post late last week, it was learned that the federal government had already exhausted the number of vaccine doses it had available when Trump administration officials vowed to release more to the states. Locally, it means that Michigan, Metro Detroit counties, and the city of Detroit will get far fewer vaccine doses than were planned. The state has a 50,000 dose shortfall right now. Wayne and Washtenaw counties have already made an announcement, and other local governments are expected to follow suit in the coming days. This will slow down the rollout even more. In response to this news, the state of Michigan has released a new tentative timeline about vaccine availability, pushing when the general public would be able to get it into August. If we remember, the federal government had set the goal of 20 million shots in arms by the end of the year 2020. We haven't gotten anywhere near that nearly 3 weeks into 2021. A couple of quick auto stories. It's been confirmed that Rivian will raise $2.65 billion, bringing their total investment since the beginning of 2019 to $8 billion. The startup electric automaker, although no longer headquartered in Michigan, now has an engineering presence here. Speaking of the shifting auto industry, the North American headquarters of Stellantis unveiled their new sign on the heels of the consummation of the marriage between Fiat Chrysler and Peugeot. The new company is headquartered in the Netherlands, and shares on the New York Stock Exchange of the renamed company are up 11% as of this recording. If you're looking at the number of vehicles produced, the deal makes Stellantis the fourth largest automaker in the world. And it makes me think, with Rivian falling through and this move, is there now just a Detroit 2? Or is it GM and Ford and there's no longer kind of a slang for it? And to give a bit more perspective on how much things have changed around here, depending on the day, Rocket Companies, formerly Quicken Loans, has a higher valuation than Ford Motor Company. Online sports betting starts in Michigan this Friday, January 22nd. On Tuesday, the Michigan Gaming Control Board authorized 9 operators to begin both online gaming and sports betting at noon this Friday. This includes the 3 Detroit casinos with partners like DraftKings, FanDuel, and Fox Bet. Although legalized in 2019, people have had to place bets in person at casinos up till now, and this will no longer be the case. Now, the tax rates are complicated, but they're different online than off. Of note, in the city of Detroit, as this will probably eat into in-person traffic, there is a 30% tax on this that goes to the city of Detroit. Plus, there's what's called a hold harmless provision to help the city of Detroit recoup lost gaming tax revenue if it collects less than $183 million in taxes from the casinos in a fiscal year. If you've driven down West Grand Boulevard lately by Henry Ford Hospital, you might have noticed a shiny new building and a skywalk that spans across the road. What that is the Henry Ford Cancer Institute at the Henry Ford Health System's new Birgitte Harris Cancer Pavilion, and the doors are opening on Wednesday. The new cancer facility is named after the late wife of Detroit businessman and philanthropist Mort Harris, who donated $20 million to Henry Ford Health System in her honor. The hospital system says the new facility was designed with input from cancer patients. Metro Detroit, after all, is one of the premier centers of cancer research and care in the nation. It'll include what they call a focus on precision medicine, and that's tailored for each individual patient, as well as using the latest in medical technology. 14 different cancer specialties will be housed there. Beyond that, there's room for spaces centered around art, meditation, and yoga, plus a food market that's designed with the dietary needs of cancer patients in mind. Before we get to Fletcher Sharpe, I wanted to share that tomorrow, Wednesday the 20th, is What's Going On Day, named after that iconic song by Motown artist Marvin Gaye. The holiday is officially recognized by Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and it marks the 50th anniversary of the release of Gaye's iconic What's Going On single. The song, if you didn't know, was inspired by a police brutality incident witnessed by Ronaldo Obi Benson. It was recorded at Motown Studios A&B right here in Detroit and was composed by Benson, L. Cleveland, and Gaye, and produced by Gaye himself. It was also the first album to credit Motown's in-house studio band, the Funk Brothers. What's Going On would go on to sell millions of copies and become Gaye's second most successful Motown song to date, after Let's Get It On. And the album was named number 1 on Rolling Stone's 2020 list of 500 greatest albums of all time. Quite the honor. The folks over at the Motown Museum are asking people to share what the song meant to them over on their social media pages. I will include links. Oh, and I'll tell you this, a note about the Funk Brothers. For a long time, the unsung musical backbone of that iconic sound. If you have not watched the movie Standing in the Shadows of Motown, I strongly suggest it. It's just a lot of fun, but also gets into the deep story of what happened with these just great musicians. I think if you're a fan of Detroit history and Detroit music, it's worth a watch. Joining me virtually for our weekly check-in, Fletcher Sharpe. How are you, sir?
I wish it could be a little warmer, but it's warmer than it's supposed to be, so I guess I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, as far as January goes, it ain't that bad. Well, I want to get started right away here because there's a lot of news to get through in the sports world. First off, Michigan State, Illinois has been postponed because of more positive COVID-19 tests within the program. I believe as of this recording, it's the third game that Michigan State has seen postponed, and it seems like we've got a COVID problem at Michigan State.
Yeah, specifically reserve players Steven Izzo, son of Tom Izzo, and Madi Sissoko have tested positive, which pushes them playing further back. And yeah, it seems like it started out with Tom Izzo contracting COVID before the season started, and then each week following, like, just not great for the past week and a half. Honestly, at this point, if you're going to cancel 3 games in a row, I feel like the NCAA should put in a rule where, I know football, 3 games means basically your season's altered entirely. But like basketball, seeing as there are way more games, I feel like if you have to cancel 5 games in a row, 5-6 games, like your season just is over. Like that's it. And I don't want them to like end up trying to force teams to play without players because like that's not necessarily great either. But like it makes no sense to start a season and then have to halt half your games because you can't control COVID. And yeah, I understand that like this disease is very much volatile, so it's kind of hard to contain as it is, especially with a new strain out. If you can't control your locker room, whether it's, you know, emotions or, you know, thievery, or in this case, you know, COVID, maybe you just shouldn't be playing right now.
I mean, that'll frustrate a lot of people, but I understand what you're saying. You look at the numbers case-wide for Michigan as we're recording this. They're not as bad as they were like a month ago or a month and a half ago, but they're still rather high. And the new strain was officially discovered in Washtenaw County just a couple of days ago, but that means it's already been here for a while. My worry is that if this new strain does really start to spread in the state, it's going to be hard to keep those numbers down, and it's going to run roughshod over things. I mean, the UK is fully locked down right now, or so are some other places, because it just spreads so much better.
I mean, to use a metaphor, It's kind of like eating dinner and wanting dessert. If you're not going to eat your mashed peas and split steak, you don't deserve then to have ice cream. If we can barely contain the disease now before the new strain actually totally takes over, you probably just shouldn't be doing stuff. I don't mean to say stay inside and, lock everything down, stare at the wall, don't, watch reruns of The Office again on Peacock. If you can't control your team now, or you can't control your franchise now, you can't control whatever now, and COVID hasn't really kicked back into being even more of a factor, maybe you just shouldn't be playing right now. And I know it stinks because I know a lot of Michigan State fans are looking forward to watching Michigan State get back into the rankings. They want to watch Michigan play Michigan State, that rivalry game, whether it's whatever, no matter what the sport, football, basketball, tiddlywinks, cartwheels, whatever, they want to see them compete. But if you can't keep your kids safe right now, you just should not be playing. Because at this point, it's really just a detriment to the players.
To be clear, Michigan has been better than the rest of the nation, but that's still a tenuous position. I want to keep moving here because there's a lot to cover. We've got the Detroit Lions, and they are hiring Brad Holmes as their general manager. Are you surprised they moved this quickly? Did this seem about right? And what do you think about Brad Holmes as a choice?
He's had some good picks. He's had some bad picks. Jared Goff seemed to be a great pick for the Rams, and then kind of turned out to be not so great of a pick for the Rams. He's really known more looking like Ryan Gosling with muscles than he is for anything else. But I like the fact that they're heading with a younger, fresh face who's here to do things in a new way. If that's what the Lions are going to do going forward, it's going to be great. I also think from a racial standpoint, it's good to hire somebody who looks like the majority of your city. Not that needs to be the only point, but the Lions have not had a great history with hiring minority GMs. So hiring a minority GM is good. Hopefully he can bring some of the magic he brought early with the Rams, not more recently with the Rams, because the Lions don't need any more hurdles to climb.
The coaching prospects have kind of changed since we last talked. Robert Saleh has been picked up by the Jets, which Jets fans seem to be really excited about. I feel like we missed a real window with him. And now the focus is on New Orleans Saints assistant head coach Dan Campbell as the lead guy. Thoughts?
The Lions have a really great, I guess it's not great, but I'll say innate ability to sign a coach or be really interested in a coach who's known for one or two good things. And then all of a sudden, after they've shown public interest, that one or two things that they're good at evaporate. Case in point, Matt Patricia, when the Lions finally said that we're going to sign this guy is our guy. He's great. The defensive guru that we were told that he was going to be promptly gave up 30 to 35 straight points in 3 to 4 games, including the playoffs, both games, even the ones that they won, which is alarming because the Patriots defense, man for man, is better than what the Lions had. So if he can take that good defense and then also give up a bunch of points and with a bend, don't break philosophy, I knew at that point the Lions defense was in trouble. I knew that right from that point forward. And lo and behold, the Lions defense was definitely in trouble. With Dan Campbell, he's an assistant coach, but he used to be a tight end. He's known for grooming the great tight ends that New Orleans has, which is kind of easy to do when you have Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Last night in their game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers, mind you, the tight ends failed Drew Brees. Drop after drop, catches, not smart route running. So, yeah, it worries me. The Lions have a young tight end and TJ Hawkinson, who is great, will probably thrive from having a former NFL player coach him up a bit more, probably give him a bit more attention. The offense should be humming a bit better. But I'm worried because you're going on a commodity that's not really well known, doesn't really have the best track record by himself. So, yeah, I'm a little worried. I don't think it's going to push them towards the playoffs anytime soon, but hopefully it can do something positive.
Jim Harbaugh at the University of Michigan's football program is making some changes in faces around what he's doing after his contract re-upped. Thoughts on those?
He's bringing in some new faces and then some familiar faces. He got rid of Don Brown, which some former players think is a bit unfair. But if you're a Michigan fan, it should make you happy because Don Brown's schemes, while very audacious and at times very reward-filling, were not working out in the long run. He brought in former linebackers coach for the Baltimore Ravens, Mike McDonald. The linebackers for the Baltimore Ravens defense were probably one of their high points, specifically Matthew Judon, who played at a local college, Grand Valley State. So to bring in someone like that who has a familiarity with the NFL system to your defense, it's a good start. It's also really good because he played for Jim's former brother, John Harbaugh, who beat Jim in the NFL Super Bowl when the two brothers played each other. So he's coming from a winning organization who just recently finished a playoff run. It's very helpful to get someone like that who's young out there to help these kids who are trying to grow, the ones who want to play in the NFL. I think it's a smart hire. Do I think it's going to pan out great in the long run? I'm not sure, but I think it's a better hire than keeping around Don Brown, who's shown that it just might not be his time to be playing right now. On the familiar side, Michigan has signed former Michigan legend and coiner of the phrase little brother, Mike Hart, as a running backs coach. Mike Hart never really was flashy to me. He was very much like bread and butter. I'm not fast. I'm not strong. I'm just here, and I'm going to get yards the best way I can. I always fall forward, which is what any running back you want, that's always you want them to do, is fall forward the best you can. He showed that by not being the best pro, but being a very effective pro, the same way he was at Michigan. So bringing on a face like that, who's a legend around the campus, who's a legend around the football stadium, to teach your running backs how to properly hit the gap, properly exploit formation, that's a smart hire. Mike Hart shows you might not be the flashiest guy, you might not be the quickest or the strongest, but as long as you fall forward and hit the gaps properly, you can make to the professional ranks. So to bring on someone who's done that and can come back and show you, a very smart hire.
Fletcher, before we go, I wanted to bring a story of my own. A friend of the podcast, a guest, someone who had a ton of impact in the Detroit community, Marlowe Stoudamire. He was 43 when he passed away of COVID-19 in the first quarter of last year. Just a gut punch to the Detroit community. Also turns out he was the strategic social impact advisor for the National Hockey League. So he worked on diversity initiatives, making sure that the league was getting into communities, kind of widening out, making sure there's opportunities for all people to be involved in hockey. And just recently, the Red Wings paid tribute to him with a video, some other social media things. He also had with a jersey that's actually got 67 on it, which is in reference to the work that he did with the Detroit Historical Museum about the 67 Rebellion, which was an amazing exhibit and really a showcase of his talents, really getting so many people to the table to talk about what happened in 1967 and build so many bridges. So, glad to see the Red Wings doing that. And for me personally, I'm glad to see that we aren't forgetting such important people who have had such an impact in the city.
While it's very sad that we lost someone who was doing very positive things for this city, whether it's showing more light to the 67 Rebellion or whether it's trying to get Detroit youth involved in a sport that's kind of shaped everyone's life as a Detroiter, we can all be happy in the fact that the work he started, someone else can help finish and bring more power to. So while it's a very sad ending, we know that his work will never be forgotten.
Well, with that, Fletcher Sharpe, it's always great to talk to you. You can follow him at Saint FDW or Twitter, or as I think you're probably going to tell me, don't follow you, right?
Yeah, no, I don't need any more of those.
All right, man, take care. Talk to you next week. And that's all for your Daily Detroit for today. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Jer Stays. Now, more than ever, I believe that the only way we'll get through this is together, and we'll talk tomorrow.